Leigh-Ann Naidoo, good afternoon to you. Welcome back. I'm sure many people glad to see you unharmed and safe. I want to take us to that point now that has been so well broadcast, where you're intercepted in the flotilla by the Israeli forces. We don't see much of what happens there. Just take me through those moments as you realized, okay, they really are going to stop us.
So we reached the 100-mile from Gaza mark on the morning at 6 a.m. of Thursday, I think it was, when we were intercepted. Or actually, it might have been Wednesday. And what was interesting was that up until that point, we'd been on sea for 9 days, and we'd had an Al Jazeera crew with us. We had limited satellite contact with family, with people in Gaza. I'd been writing a journal about the experience because it was quite a dramatic experience traveling 1,000 miles towards Gaza. And the minute we reached the 1,000-mile mark, our communications were cut off. And so the images that you will see from the interception were controlled completely by the Israeli occupied forces. Every person who came onto our boat, every soldier who was on our boat had a GoPro. They had a photographer in a boat next to us. They had someone on the video camera. So it was clear that they were going to try and make the best story out of this for the Israeli state.
Were you allowed to film anything?
We were not allowed to film anything. And in fact, they went through the boat with a fine-tooth comb. And the thing that they were clearly looking for was memory cards, cameras. Even the media had all their things taken away from them. So that is a violation of our right to report on what had happened to us.
We're going to talk about what actually happened when you got on land and what you were hoping to achieve if you'd even managed to get further than this 100-mile mark where you were intercepted as well. Some people have asked, you probably knew, and the flotilla knew, and the other members, I believe there were a few flotillas who were supposed to go. Some weren't able to go to technical reasons. That I think we know. What was the point of trying to do this? What were you trying to achieve? What was your end goal? It surely wasn't to be stopped.
No, it wasn't. And the flotilla movement has been in existence for a number of years. A number of them have reached the shore. And then there's obviously the 2010 Turkish boat that was viciously attacked. 9 people were killed. So there have been different responses from the Israeli occupied forces. Our intention was to go as a women's boat to take a message of peace and solidarity and hope to a really devastated part of the world. The fact that the Israeli government, through their military, prevented even a message of hope gives you a sense of how desperate they are to keep what is going on in Gaza under wraps, to keep as many people away from there as possible.
So let's figure this out then. In the past, many flotillas and boats have been stopped because they're assumed to be carrying contraband of sort, even though it is actually humanitarian aid. They call it contraband. When you were intercepted and you told them you do come in peace with nothing that is illegal in their country or of any harm to them, what did you tell them you were actually there to do, and what were their exact words back to you?
I mean, we, through our captain, was speaking over the radio, so not all of us could speak at the same time, but the message was pretty clear, and we discussed it beforehand. We're taking a message of hope. We need to go and meet people who have been waiting for us because the situation is so dire in Gaza that we're not taking aid because flotillas in the past that have been stopped. The Israeli occupied forces have walked away with money, with food, and it's never seen the people that we've actually intended to. And that's why flotillas have now said, we're not even going to try to take humanitarian aid because we understand that they want to block that. As inhumane as that is, it's quite clear that that's what they want to do. They don't want resources to go in to fix schools, to fix hospitals, to fix people's homes. It's an inhumane, terrible situation. So we were taking a message of hope. And there were many, many thousands of people waiting for us. They'd been watching through whatever devices they do have. We had spoken to a couple of organizations who do work around medical care, around education, because I'm an educationalist. They were anxiously waiting. We made it to 34 miles from Gaza. So it isn't true that we got stopped at the 100-mile mark, but they had clearly decided that as soon as we get close enough, they're going to make sure that there's no more contact and that they're going to stop us. They, in fact, stopped us in international waters. We weren't in Israeli waters when they stopped us.
What did they actually stop you for? If no contraband, if communication was there, what was the actual reason given, A, for stopping you some 32 miles out, and then B, for deporting you? What was you must have been given a reason.
So the actual reason was that we were breaking the blockade, and in their mind, as in the mind of the apartheid state, there were many, many laws that were passed that were understood to be legitimate laws, when in fact these laws are illegitimate. They are dehumanizing, they are brutal, and that is why there are flotillas every year. There are organizations around the world who are working against this illegal blockade. So in the Israelis' mind, what the major was saying was, you are in contravention of this law, and we kept saying, but we do not We do not accept this law. We think this law is unjust and it shouldn't be there.
Let's bring you back home safely. Here you can see visuals, those watching at home, of you arriving safely as well. You went into a media briefing. We were carrying as much of it as possible, but there was a moment of altercation between, not necessarily yourself. I understood you were trying to calm things down. Here's that moment from yesterday where the Israeli ambassador was there to make a statement of some kind. The audio wasn't very good. Tell me what happened there and why it got so heated.
Look, I think it got heated because there was a particular statement that was meant to be made, and the ambassador was bringing his personal opinion in, and there were people who were worried about what he was saying.
Here it is behind us.
Yeah, he was basically making excuses for why the Israeli state.
Can we just listen in for a second, Leigh-Ann?
Okay.
But you're speaking on behalf of Israel.
All right, so clearly the supporters that were there for you, which you said on a number of occasions were friends, family, loved ones, were going to allow the ambassador to speak, but then it went left of centre there as well. And this brings me to my next question. I know you answered briefly what the issue was there. What is your stance, perhaps as we begin to wrap up, on South Africa's position on what is happening in Israel, Palestine, and perhaps more specifically to what your mission was in Gaza?
Look, I think the South African government needs to be a lot more clearer and take a much clearer stance. I don't even know why we have an ambassador there, why we have diplomatic relations. There are other countries who don't. Israel apartheid is very, very real, and it's something that should touch every South African deeply, because we have suffered from a very similar thing. So for me, the South African government has to be much more clearer about their relationship with Israel and think really critically about what they're doing, propping up a form of democracy that is, in fact, from my experience having been there, it's a bit of a farce of a democracy, because Palestine exists, occupied Palestine exists across the way, and it's a really brutal, terrible situation there. So you cannot pretend that everything is okay. This has resonance in South Africa as well. We cannot pretend in middle-class South Africa, because we have democracy there, that stuff going on in the township is not related.
Perhaps I leave you with this question as a final question. Are you going back?
I would definitely go back, but as I said yesterday, one of the things, I'm back for less than 24 hours. It is very simple to go back to your life. Especially if you are a privileged person. I would say that more people need to make the trip to understand just how brutal the military is there and how badly the segregation exists. For me, I'm not even a Palestinian, but the way I was dehumanized through strip searches, through cross-questioning, through having my bags checked over and over again, it's a banal, everyday form of dehumanization that happens, and it happened under apartheid here with pass laws and those types of things. So I would say I would go back, because it really does remind me of the injustice that's happening, and I can't slip easily back into a comfortable life here. And so therefore I would say other people should make the trip, find out about the Palestinian, make connection with people who don't live in the same neighborhood as you, even in South Africa, so that you can better understand what reality is. Reality isn't middle-class democratic life. There's a lot more going on in the world.
Leigh-Ann, well done. Thank you very much indeed. I think many people supporting your call to go beyond what they're comfortable with as well. A pleasure to have you on eNCA today. Leigh-Ann Naidoo, well-known South African sportsman, of course, but in this particular context, well-known South African pro-Palestinian activist, went all the way there, was detained, her words, kidnapped by Israeli authorities and sent back to South Africa.